What's the most memorable real-life plot twist you have ever experienced? So when my grandmother died, we all found out that when she was 13 in Argentina, her older brother, which none of us knew existed, became psychotic and was hospitalized in a mental institution. Remember, this is 1930s Argentina. Over time, my grandma lost touch with her brother because of moving overseas and so on. It was always her secret shame that she abandoned her brother. Her brother apparently later died while still hospitalized, alone. Fast forward 70 years. Grandma dies and my father goes to Argentina. We live in Israel now to meet with family and find and pay respects at said uncle's grave. He starts going from cemetery to cemetery searching for his uncle's grave. He can't find it. Maybe he was cremated. So he starts going from mental hospital to mental hospital. Of course, we don't know where he was hospitalized. Searching through records, soon enough, he picks up on a 70-year-old trail and follows his uncle from hospital to hospital, some of which closed down decades ago. Finally, he reaches modern times. And plot twist, he finds his uncle alive and well, 96 years old in Buenos Aires mental hospital. Anyway, long story short, my dad took him out of the hospital, put him in a supported living environment, and got him off 90% of the meds they had him on. Thus emerged a relatively stable but still schizophrenic old man. Epilogue? Recently he called my aunt and said, "Susan, did you know that America has a black president?" Kay is my female bisexual friend. Jen was her bisexual girlfriend. Andre is Kay's boyfriend. Brian is Jen's boyfriend. New friend, Kay is dating a woman named Jen. Jen is super weird, clingy, demanding, always accusing Kay of being shady, etc. Even accused Kay of being in a relationship with me, also female. One day, ask Kay, "So, tell me how you met Jen." Kay and Jen met on a study abroad trip. Jen was romantically interested in Kay, but Kay wasn't really reciprocating. Jen was totally cool with it and they became good friends. In fact, during the trip, Jen introduced Kay via email to her cousin Andre, male. Andre and Kay totally hit it off and start an online relationship, complete with exchanging pictures, etc. Andre sends Kay gifts when she returns home, including expensive jewelry. Andre also hooks up Jen with his friend Brian. Everyone is happy until one day, Jen finds out from a mutual friend that Andre and Brian are dead. They ran off together in a gay love affair and ended up overdosing on drugs, just weeks before Andre was supposed to come meet Kay in person for the first time. In their shared grief, Kay and Jen started a relationship together. Wow. Quite the freaking story. In fact, I decided it sounds freaking insane and started doing some digging. I find the picture of Andre that he sent her in a random Google search. I look for any stories of this torrid gay love affair gone awry in a hotel drug binge. Nada. All sorts of weird crap. So I say to Kay, have you ever thought that maybe Andre doesn't exist? She is remarkably interested and not upset. We go to Andre's old email account. We get in using Jen's password. Yes, they shared passwords because Jen didn't trust Kay. Kay loses her crap. Jen had created Andre and the whole story complete with fake pictures, paying a male cousin of hers to have phone conversations with Kay, getting nude pictures, etc., etc. During the Andre relationship, Kay's mother died unexpectedly and Andre paid for all of Kay's expenses to make it home for the services, etc. And it was Jen the whole time. This was a long BS too. Over a year of this crap. So Kay emailed Jen from the grave of dead Andre's account, forced her to confess, after which Jen threatened to kill herself, so Kay called the police, who took her to the hospital, and then Kay got a restraining order and they never saw each other again. Bonus detail, Jen even had someone, maybe have been Jen herself, call Kay pretending to be Andre's aunt to tell her how sorry she was that he had died and that he loved her, etc., etc. Also during this drug binge, Andre and Brian cut each other's testicles with plastic forks. Hell of a drug. Kay is married to a real person, I've met him, and has a daughter now. This incident was several years ago. A friend of mine had been feeling lonely for months and found a guy she really got on with after meeting him gaming. Sadly, they lived too far apart to meet face to face. Cue months of them getting closer until he asks her out. They start e-dating. She confesses to me that she really likes him and she's saving money to go visit. Fast forward 14 months, she saved the money, she's booked the flight, she's going to meet the man she loves, everything is perfect, she's flying out the very next day. Cue me getting a hysterical call late at night. It's hard to decipher what she's saying. I get her to slow down and take it easy. He's not him. I ask for clarification on he's not him. She cries, and I'm still confused. I don't get it. What does that mean? He lied about what he does or his age or something? I asked. She replies, no, he lied about who he is, what he is. He is not him. He is she. He is not Michael. She is Michelle. Turns out the girl was a lonely lesbian who looked a bit butch, if appropriately dressed, made up for the webcam, and who'd been using pictures of her brother the entire time for everything else. Sadly, she almost had a nervous breakdown and has ended up with serious trust issues and a medium-sized case of homophobia. I walked into a new job on my first day. I walked up to a guy and introduced myself. He says no time to waste and assigns me a few weird tasks, and I start on them. I had been working for an hour when my phone rings, and it's from the job that I just started. I answer, and the guy on the phone says, "You are aware today is your first day?" I said, "Yes, I'm actually here. David gave me some stuff to do." The guy on the phone says, "Who's David?" Apparently, a complete stranger just started telling me what to do, and I didn't think twice about it. We had a pretty good laugh. I played EverQuest about 10 years ago and joined a guild. There was this dreamy high elf cleric who was always playing at the same time as me. Who am I kidding? Everybody played all day on EverQuest. Anyways, we always played together, sometimes out killing things, sometimes just sitting around in the city talking. Over the course of 6 months, this woman became my reason for logging on. We eventually got married, in-game, which her real-life husband, who also played the game, didn't think was that funny. We were very close, and she told me many details about her personal life and her husband. It felt like I was on the short end of an affair, but I didn't know any better. It felt great talking to her. My head was in the clouds, and anytime she signed on, my mood improved, and I looked forward to it every day. Eventually, she sent me pictures of herself. She was a pretty blonde-haired woman of 27 years old, a 1 on the binary scale, the only honest rating system. She asked me for pictures in return, but I said no because it would be weird for a 12-year-old boy to send pictures of himself over the internet. I don't think she saw that coming, and I don't think I ever saw her again. My little brother hitchhikes a lot. He was trying to hitch to Valdez, Alaska, to run a half a marathon there before hitchhiking to my parents' house near Fairbanks. He gets picked up near Seattle by a woman. They're chatting, and my brother is telling her the story of how he rode his bike from Alaska to Argentina. The woman says her neighbor's son had done the same thing. Turns out she was my parents' next-door neighbor. I started working at Home Depot around 2005 and was somewhat of an introvert. I graduated in 2004 and really struggled breaking out of the high school mentality and not having a set group of friends to hang out with. So I started at Home Depot, and a guy, Nick, I work with invites me out to drinking. I'm only 19 at the time, but he's a few years older. We ended up becoming very good friends, but haven't necessarily breached the emotional stuff beyond chicks. Fast forward a few months, and my stepmom's mother dies. Pretty bleak stuff, and I really just have my family to talk to, which of course isn't the same at all. I'm kinda struggling, my buddy Nick is drifting away as well, and the day of the funeral comes. It's towards the end, and I walk up to say my final goodbyes. I look over, Nick is there staring at me dumbfounded. We high-five, hug, and find out he's my stepmom's nephew, and we were both drifting away because we didn't have anyone to bring real stuff to, outside of family. Been best friends ever since. My friend's best friend was dating this guy, and they were pretty sure they had found the one with each other. This guy was all ready to propose and was picking out rings. So these two decide to have a threesome, and as a third, he chooses his ex-girlfriend. At this point, any guy with a shred of common sense should know this is probably going to end badly, but this is where the twist is. The girlfriend enjoyed it a little too much and broke up with him to date his ex-girlfriend. I was job searching in my early 20s. I get to this interview, and the guy didn't know I was coming. He grudgingly walks me into his office and starts asking me questions. I had been on so many interviews, I just wasn't in the mood for someone to make me feel like I wasn't welcome. He asks me why I want to work here, and part of my answer is, I like to help people. He responds with a BS. I'm surprised, but I can tell this is going nowhere. The rest of the interview is formality, and I end with a sarcastic, sorry to bother you. I get to my apartment and I'm feeling down. I receive a voicemail asking where I was for my interview. They say if I'm still interested to call back. I compare name, number, and company with the business card I was given, and it turns out I was on the wrong floor. I just walked into a random company and was given an interview. But yeah, I didn't get either job. I used to know a guy named Ben. Ben was the biggest two-faced douche I'd ever known. He once met a girl online and went out to meet her and returned a few days later. When asked about her to his male friends, he said that there was no spark, no chemistry, whatever, to his guy friends. When asked about her to his female friends, he said there was no spark, no chemistry, whatever. To his guy friends, he would say that she was so ugly, he couldn't stand to look at her. Ben hated ugly women. Ben and I lived together, and my overweight girlfriend, later wife and now ex-wife, stayed with us frequently. She was friendly with him, would hang out with him while I was at work, and frequently drive him around if he needed. As soon as she was gone, though, he would laugh about how fat she was. Ben hated fat women. Years and years pass. I'm on OkCupid one day and I see a new member. She looks vaguely familiar. I look at her photos and it hits me. Ben, who was already unattractive, gained a bunch of weight and became transgender. In essence, he became a fat, ugly woman, the very thing he hated the most. The end. Or is it? Transgender Ben briefly dated a lesbian friend of mine who lives with my ex-wife and would come hang out not knowing he was in the house of the woman he would only a few years before make fun of for being fat. His relationship with the lesbian didn't last, needless to say. My ex-girlfriend's mother was in hospice care dying of cancer when she told her son, my ex's brother, that the man she was married to, the man that raised him his entire life, was not his biological father. This was news to everyone involved and was later confirmed through testing. Without going into details, the man who raised my ex's brother was not the most attentive father, nor all that warming kind. They had a kind of typical broken home story. He was a bit of a drunk that got divorced, and the kid was a big-time troublemaker. The final twist came shortly after their mom passed. The non-biological dad took the kid hunting and told him that he didn't care, that he was his son, that nothing and no one was going to take that away from him. Coming from that man, it was huge and no one expected it. They became extremely close after that, and last I heard, still visit each other several times a week. Backstory. My mother told me that my 2-year-old brother Jeffrey died 2 weeks after birth. Anyway, so I met a guy at the lobby of the Mandatory Bay in Las Vegas. We were hitting it off really well. We both loved and wanted to become physicists, and we loved Doctor Who. The only problem was he was 22 and I was 20. We told each other our names, his being Jeffrey and mine Lucy, and gave each other our phone numbers. A couple of days later, we went to dinner as a date. He told me that he was adopted into a family at only a couple of weeks old. I told him about my older brother dying at around the same age. He asked for his name, which I politely gave him. He got worried and started to sweat. We went back to my parents' house to call my parents. They said to do a blood test. The very next day, we went to the doctor, and so it turns out I dated my brother. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, reactions, and of course your own wild stories down in the comments, and here's another video that YouTube thinks you'll love.